Here to discuss cause-based marketing and audience-based advertising is Jessica Stafford, Vice President of Marketing and Media Solutions with Cox Automotive Media Group. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. So I'm really excited to be here today talking to you. My name is Jessica Stafford, and I lead marketing for AutoTrader, Kelley Blue Book, and Dealer.com within the Cox Automotive family. I've been with the company for 10 years now and managed marketing across a bunch of different brands as well as a lot of different verticals, focusing a lot of time on consumer marketing and driving car shoppers to our experiences, doing a lot of what you all do. Before that, I spent time at a few different digital ad agencies, and I've spent my whole career in this digital marketing world. And so it's been really interesting and really great to be able to see how trends have formed over time, how things have changed, making it a lot easier for us to do our jobs, to get in touch with the right car shopper at the right time with the right message. And so I'm really excited to talk to you today about how that evolution has happened, some of the trends we're seeing in the marketplace that make it a lot easier for us to do that, and really spend some time talking about the best ways to do that. I'm going to give you enough information to make you dangerous. That's kind of the idea. So I do this every day, all day, and I know you all have businesses to run. So what's important is to pick up on some of these key notes, key ideas, bring it back to your marketing teams, internal, external, make sure you're working with your partners and asking them some of these key questions that we'll talk about today. Here's some legalese that I know we have to show first, and then just let's get into it. So to set the stage, we have a lot of opportunity in front of us as marketers, as advertisers, and as business owners and brand owners today. But there's a crazy world happening around all of our consumers. They're multitasking all of the time. They've got content and information coming at them in every direction, whether that's advertising or whether that's education and content. And so it's very important that in this world, we are connected and we're creating intentional engagements. And what's great is consumers, in our case, car shoppers, they want this engagement. They want this information and this connection. So it's a great time for us to be able to create content that gives them what they need. This is an opportunity for us right now. I'm going to go through today and talk about some key terms, some keywords, and I thought I'd put some definitions up while we're talking about it today. And you'll see the definition here, so you have it to reference afterwards, but I'm going to go through it to make sure we're all kind of coming from a single point of truth and really understanding these new terms in the space. Some of them will be simple ideas you've been talking about probably for a while, some a bit more complex and talking about trends going forward. So, for example, let's start with this idea of that multitasking, crazy world we're in now, where cross-device usage is happening all around us. So this is simply that idea of you've got all kinds of devices in front of you, everything from a phone to a tablet to a laptop, even a smartwatch, right? And so starting out a few years ago, it was all about, for us as advertisers, as business owners, how do we make sure that we're on all of these devices? How do we make sure that we're communicating with consumers, with car shoppers across devices? Then it kind of progressed and it turned into this space of how do we make sure we're connecting our messages between the devices? So I need to make sure that we have a consistent experience if someone's on my website, on their laptop, on their computer, but then also on their phone. Now we've even moved past that. Now we're in a place where we're seeing trends about not only that connectivity, but really paying attention to where somebody is when they're using that device. So we might want to serve a consumer, a car shopper, a different ad, a different message if they're on their phone and on our dealership lot versus if they're on their phone and sitting on their couch. So this connectivity is a new opportunity for us as advertisers and when we think about how we're targeting consumers as well. And that all leads to this idea of breakthrough, which is not new to any of us. We've always been trying to break through with a message and a product that's really interesting and engaging to consumers. Long gone are the days where breakthrough was all about an interesting visual and just a compelling message. Now we have to be meaningful. We have to create personalized and meaningful and valuable experiences for our consumers so that they pay attention to the message that we have. So these challenges, these opportunities in the marketplace all come together in the topic that I want to talk to you about today, which we're calling intuitive audience targeting. So if you think of all of these opportunities we have with the chaotic and connected world that we all live in, we want to get to a place where we, as brands and as advertisers, can connect with consumers in an intuitive way, know who they are before we speak to them, so we can make sure to get to them in the right place at the right time with the right message. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go through some of those advertising trends and some targeting definitions, talk about what that means to all of us, how we could be using it in our marketing plans. We're also going to talk about how half the battle is getting in front of the right person, and then the other half is the messaging, how we connect with consumers and the message that we use. And we're going to talk about some examples of that, things like cause-based marketing, an opportunity to relate to our consumers on an even deeper level. And then we're going to tie it up in the end with just top 5 strategies, some things you can walk away today and have to go talk to your partners about and take some action. We're in this consumer-driven world, and what's great is that us as advertisers, we have this opportunity to connect with consumers in a much deeper way than we've ever been able to before. And it's working out well. Consumers tell us that they are having a more enjoyable experience with advertising. They believe that their experiences online and with advertising has gotten better over time, which makes sense because we're able to connect with them. We're able to know more about who they are and therefore can give them advertising that's relevant and valuable to them. For us in the automotive world, this is a great opportunity for us because what we have to say, the content, the advertising, promoting our vehicles we have for sale, promoting services, that's actually content that these consumers want to hear. Your customers want to know this information. They consider it education. And the more that we can add that value, the better off we are. So we can package that content and advertising that actually really creates an impact on their world. But, it wasn't always that way. We didn't always have this intuitive information, this data about our car shoppers, about our consumers. So we weren't able to tailor this information. We started out with mass media, this idea of broadcasting a message to the masses. And it was all about getting in front of as many people as you could with your message, promoting awareness of a brand, of a product. And this still exists today, of course. You might think of it as traditional TV advertising, out-of-home billboards, but it's online as well. It spans all aspects of marketing, and it has an important piece in our marketing mix. What's important now is that we take that mass marketing and we add on to it. We go into this idea of targeting and audience-based marketing. So the first kind of progression of that is placement targeting. So this is an idea around approaching targeting by looking at specific ad placements that you want to be in as an advertiser. So it could be online, it could be on a specific website, it could be on a specific TV program, it could be a particular billboard you want to be in. But the idea is the way you're targeting your advertising is based on the placement itself. So let me show you an example. Here we have ESPN.com. A broad website, and you can see here that Allstate has ads across the whole homepage, at the top of the page, on the side of the page. This is targeted based on the placement. So the objective here is probably around a share of voice. They want to have as much share of the voice on the page as they can. So they picked these particular placements as targeting. It takes us a little step closer to targeting, a little bit deeper than that mass media approach, because they're picking these particular placements. As we move on from there, we go into demographic targeting. And this is something we've all been using for a long time when we consider the segments that we're after for our business. The definition of demographic targeting is exactly what you would think. It's some basics. It's age, it's gender, it's income. It's pulling this kind of information together to segment your audience, and then you can apply that targeting to all of the marketing that you do. Everything from your TV ad buys, your local radio buys, to your digital buys as well. So let's look at an example of that. In this case, we've got GQ.com. We know that GQ is a segment of male, more affluent population. And so here you've got an infinity ad where this advertiser is going after that demographic audience, and they're picking in this case, a website, a publisher that has that type of audience. It's a broad audience, but it's a demographic segment that they're interested in really hitting. Again, getting a little bit tighter into a specific target market. From demographic targeting, we move on to this idea of contextual targeting. And here's where we're really starting to get into more of the space where we're narrowing down who we want to talk to. We're narrowing down where we want to talk to them. So the definition of contextual targeting is all about getting in front of a consumer in a space where they're in this lean forward state, right? They are interested in the content. They're engaged in the content. They're probably looking for education. In our case, maybe it's car reviews, information about specific cars themselves, and research. And so they're surrounded by this content that is all about their category. Again, in our case, automotive, although it could be any category. And then you serve an ad to them in that contextual space when they're primed and open to this message. Let's look at an example outside of automotive just for this time. So here we've got HGTV. We all know what HGTV is, broadcast partner as well as online, all about home improvement. So in this case, it's logical. You can see here that we've got ads for the Home Depot. So the Home Depot is in this contextual space where I'm getting in front of a segment of people who are interested in home improvement. They're looking for information on home improvement, how-tos, maybe tutorials. It's a perfect time to get some product placement and some information in front of them about the products that they have, all falling within home improvement, right? So contextual targeting, again, started to narrow that funnel. Then we move into behavioral targeting. And we've been using this for quite a while now, but there are all new ways to implement behavioral targeting. And what behavioral targeting is it's following the behaviors of a consumer, of a person, whether they're online or offline. You know, nowadays we can follow what they're doing. They're watching TV. We've got connected, digitized TVs, and we can connect that then to the experience we give them online. But even short of that, imagine following a consumer online, seeing what they're doing, looking at the activities, looking at the type of content they're interested in, and then following up with advertising that targets that behavior. It gives us a chance to really get information in front of the consumer that, again, it's valuable to them. And we're starting here to get on the edge of that idea of intuitiveness. We are proactively looking for what might they want to know next based on their behaviors. So let's look at an example. We're here back on HGTV, and we saw that Home Depot ad. So if I'm on HGTV and I'm interested, so Home Depot got me, right? And I click through the ad and I'm looking at washers and dryers. In this case, doing some research on dryers on Home Depot. And then my behavior online, I might go surf a couple more websites during the day. I'm going to go to my email here, and I'm on Gmail. I'm checking out email. I'm going to different topics now, right? This is just my regular behavior during a typical day. Looking here at a Nordstrom email, showing me some clothing. So from there, later on in the day, I'm on Facebook. And here's where the targeting starts to come into play, right? We've got a few ads you can see here on Facebook. So this top one is for a dryer from Home Depot. They have behaviorally retargeted me. They saw what I was doing. They took that information and said, oh, you didn't buy. Let me follow up. Let me see if you're interested in looking again. Let me see if I can give you some more information. They followed my behavior. The ad underneath that one you can see is from Nordstrom, and it's got specific product placement as well. So they've got a different type of data, a different type of behavior. They saw what I was doing within the emails, right? I'm a customer of theirs. And then you've got this other ad, and this is interesting, right? This is where we take behavioral targeting to the next level, because those two ads and examples I just showed you, that was real behavior, literal behavior that I did engaging with these brands. This next ad is for a company called Rent the Runway. I'm not a customer of theirs. I've never engaged with that brand before, but it's a clothing brand. It's a clothing store. And so what they did was they used data and said, behaviorally, you were interested in Nordstrom. You did some of this other stuff online. I'm going to take a swing at it, right? I'm going to see, maybe based on your behaviors, you're open to my product message. So these are some of the things that are available to us now. And what's great is all of this targeting, no longer is it just for big companies with big budgets and national presence. Anything from small to large businesses, local to national, any budget level can engage in these types of activities now. It's a level playing field, and we all have access to this data and these tools. Now, when you pull all of this targeting together and you go from contextual to behavioral, you really end up in this perfect place in the end: audience profiling and targeting. And this is where you're pulling all of this information that you can, all of the content that you can about consumers' behavior online, as well as what they've done as engaging with you as a customer of your brand. And you create profiles and you create even further information about what they're doing. So let's look at an example here. A couple months ago, the Google Pixel phone came out, right? And I saw a TV commercial for it. It was interesting. It's got some new features. It did its job. It intrigued me. So I went online. I started Googling it, looking for some information. From there, I ended up on YouTube. I was looking at some reviews. I was looking at some user-generated content of some people that had the phone, what's interesting about it. Then from there, I browsed over to CNET because I wanted to get some expert opinions, getting into that contextual space, right, about technology. And right away, you can see here, I was hit with a Google Pixel ad. So this is a perfect example of that sequence. So Google did a great job in this case, following me, building up data and information about me. I wasn't a customer yet. I hadn't purchased the phone yet, but they followed my behavior online. They learned about who I was and what I was interested in, as far as my digital presence, of course. And then they served me this ad. And this is this perfect place of a contextually relevant ad. I'm in a place where I'm doing research. It's top of mind. I'm interested in this product. And then they served me an ad to, again, get me to engage and get to that point of purchase. Now, all of this is possible because of data. Data enables it all. We hear about data all the time now, right? Everybody's trying to sell us data. Everybody's trying to talk to us about data. But the truth is, it's very important. And so I'm going to talk to you about a couple of options, just a couple of types of data that you can use in this new audience targeting world. And then remember, it's really important that you keep your data clean, utilizing your CRM components, and make sure that you're really keeping track of who your customers are so you can use that in the future. So some of the basics, and you've got the definitions here so you can go back and reference, but really look at these icons that are up in the screen. It simplifies these concepts. So you've got the idea of first-party data. This is the best data. It's pure. It's yours. It's your data that you have about your customers. It may come from your CRM systems. It may come from your tracking and analytics and reporting on your websites and on your apps and within your dealership experiences. This is all about the data that you know about your customers and how you can use that data to give them a better experience, to learn what they want, and then give them that information through advertising. Next up is second-party data. So second-party data is almost as good as first-party data. It's kind of like someone else's first-party data. So this is usually not sold. It's not commoditized. It's usually done based on a partnership. You find another partner that you work with, another publisher perhaps, that has data, it has an audience that you're interested in, that's similar to what you're looking for. And if you form a partnership where you can utilize that data, it can be really powerful. So this could be everything from something tangential to what we do, maybe an automotive insurance company, to a specific automotive website where you can really leverage that consumer and audience data for yourself. Now, the third type that we're talking about is third-party data, and this is the most broad data. This is usually sold by a company. You buy these data layers. What's great about it is that it's got scale. You can go after a lot of people, and you can do a lot of cool creative things. You might be able to layer on different levels of data, different levels of targeting. But you also have to pay for each of those levels of targeting, which is kind of one of the downfalls, right? And the other thing about third-party data is that your competitors can use it as well. So there's not as much differentiating here. The other idea and the other concept to remember with third-party data is that it's broad. That's how third-party data providers create scale. So you get these behaviors, this activity that maybe a certain segment A is doing. And then with third-party data, what we typically do is we broaden that segment by saying, you know what, these other people, they kind of look like that first group. They're doing some activities that are similar to what that first group does. So we're going to create some lookalikes, is what we call it, and we create an even broader segment, an even broader set of third-party data. So again, that enables you to have this larger scale, but it also creates some waste. You're probably getting in front of some people that maybe aren't as qualified. They aren't in the market for a car yet. So let's go back to that behavioral targeting example and talk about how this data we just learned about applies to that behavioral targeting. So those 2 ads we talked about first, let me remind you of the experience here. This was where I was on HGTV and .com. I saw the Home Depot ad. I clicked on it. I looked at dryers. From there, I did a few other things. I looked at my email and I saw that Nordstrom email that I engaged with. Then I came to Facebook. So again, on this side, you've got that washer and dryer ad from Home Depot and that Nordstrom ad, and this is using first-party data. So you've got Home Depot, who I engaged with directly on their website. I'm now an active shopper of theirs. So they've used that digital information to know some of my behaviors. Then you've got Nordstrom, same thing, active shopper. I'm now, in this case, I'm in their CRM. Right? I have engaged with them. I get their emails. So they know a lot about me. So this is first-party data. It's the data that belongs to those brands, and they've used it to create a profile of who I am and what I might be interested in the future in order to continue to build the relationship with me. Then back to that Rent the Runway ad, which was the behaviorally targeted ad, this is third-party data. So in this case, Rent the Runway probably purchased data from a third-party provider that said, okay, we've been tracking people. This person might look like she might be interested in your product because she was doing some other things that were similar. Maybe she's in the market for some new clothing or a retail experience like this. And all of that's enabled by these data providers. So here's just a few examples of some data providers that are out there, but there are a ton. And so what I would recommend is go back and ask your partners, ask the publishers that you work with, ask your internal marketing teams or agencies that you might work with. What data providers do they use? Who do they recommend? And why? I think, ask them if they have specific relationships, exclusive relationships with those data providers, and they'll be able to give you the pros and cons of each and kind of help sort through where do you need to use these and where do you not. So if we pull all of this information we've been talking about back to our world, our automotive world, you hit this great place where you take automotive contextual content. You take first and second party real data about real car buyers, and then you follow the behavioral targeting opportunities of our consumers, our car shoppers online, and you end up in this place where you can create intuitive audience targeting. And that's where we're in this place where we're figuring out what an audience wants before they've told us. And we follow them, we follow this experience online, not only with how they engage with our properties, our websites, our apps on the dealership floor, but how they engage with advertising that exists out there as well, because that's an experience they're having with our brand, with our business as well. So we want to connect all of those, and this type of audience targeting enables that these days. So when you end up at that final place of audience profiling and targeting, that's that kind of golden spot. That's where you end up with the best audience you can speak to. So when you're building out your marketing plans, that's where you want to start. Start with what we might consider the low-hanging fruit. In those spaces that are contextual, that are where a car shopper has told you behaviorally and based on their information they're looking for and what they're looking at, that they are in the market and they're interested in cars, and then utilize the information that we have from them, whether it's your own data or data you're getting from others, to give them a really valuable experience. Start there and then build out your marketing plan. And you can talk to your partners and your publishers about this. I think that the best opportunity is when you can look at it holistically and really build a marketing plan that takes into account all of these components we've been talking about today. Now, that idea of targeting and getting in front of the right person is half the battle. Then you've got the other side. You got to tell them the right thing. You've got to have the messaging that's important to them, that's interesting to them, that's personalized to them. That's part of targeting. And so in this example, you can see this is the Coca-Cola Share a Coke campaign. It's quite literal, right? It's completely individualized. Coke did behavioral targeting, used their CRM data to customize their advertising to people who saw it. They actually put the person's name in these social ads where they could. So this is an example of personalized targeting, personalized ads that take that idea of getting in front of the right person to the next level of getting in front of them with the right message. And we know that close to 80% of consumers like personalized ads. They find value in it, but only 28% of them think that they're actually tailored correctly. So this is where, the technology has kind of gotten ahead of us. And so it's a great opportunity for us as advertisers, as business owners, as brand owners, to get the right message in front of the right person and really work on that. Imagine, think about a time nowadays where we're online and you see an ad that maybe doesn't make as much sense to you. Now, there's just the broad ads that are trying to get in front of you, but in our space, these are examples like potentially retargeting a car shopper and promoting a vehicle that was already sold. So we want to make sure that we're really tailoring the content to the person because these audiences are more tech savvy than ever before, and they like the personalization. So on to the definition of personalized ads, it's exactly as we've talked about. It's all about pulling this information that we know about consumers and building that into the message that we have for them. And again, consumers expect this these days. They know that advertisers know more about them than ever before, and they expect us to speak to them that way. And what's great about it is that they work. So you can see here these numbers. Personalized ads work better than a lot of different methods. Here, comparing to rich media, for example, video ads. The idea of personalizing an ad makes a consumer, makes a viewer just that much more open to your message. It makes me think of, just 5-6 years ago when you saw an ad that was personalized to you. Maybe you had this creepy factor. You were thinking, how'd they know that about me? How did they get that information? Well, those days are gone. With the rise of the percentage of kind of our population being tech-savvy, millennial shoppers, they get it. They know that brands know information about them. And I'll tell you what means something to them is when a brand uses that information and creates a more valuable experience. That's the key to making this work. Now, that personalized message could be really specific to the automotive space, giving them that particular information they're looking for. It can also be opportunities like cause marketing that relate and resonate with them on a deeper level. And that's where we get into the space of what cause marketing really is. It's important that we pick a real cause and a purpose that we as a brand believe in, that makes sense for our business. It's not just about writing a check to a charity and then talking about it in social media. That's not what cause marketing is. Cause marketing is finding something that's really important to your business or your product set or you personally and investing in it, investing to make it better. And what's great about cause marketing is it gives you this opportunity to relate to car shoppers and to consumers on this deeper level, so they open up to you and they love working with other brands that have similar causes, similar purpose that they believe in. It also creates a great place to work. What we've found is that employees have an even deeper loyalty when they see this kind of bigger purpose that a business is after. Here we've got an example of AT&T and their distracted driver campaign. So to me, this is a great example of cause marketing because it's taking a topic that is critical and important to AT&T as a brand and as a product, as well as the world that we live in, right? We know we have a problem with texting and driving. And so this idea of a distracted driver campaign gives AT&T a chance to talk about this issue, this social cause that's important to the world as well as important to them. And it makes sense that they're playing in this space. It's important that, like in that case, we're getting involved. For us, we're very involved in our local communities. I'm sure a lot of you, from a dealership standpoint, are very involved in your local communities. So it's really taking advantage of that and working it not only for the difference you're making in the community, but this opportunity to really build a deeper connection and a love for your brand, your company, with your consumers because you can relate on this level. Now, it's also really interesting to see how it can differentiate us, cause marketing that is. So studies are showing that when quality, when price, when products are very similar, social purpose is the number one differentiator for consumers. And it makes sense because we want to work with companies that care about the things we care about. It builds a different type of bond than just a purchase cycle. And so it's very important. Now, I know we're all working every day to differentiate ourselves, right? The dealership experience, everything that we can do with our clients, with our customers. But at the end of the day, sometimes our product, vehicles, cars, it can be similar from dealership to dealership. So this is just another thing you can do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And like I said, it goes beyond just donating. You have to live the cause. So here's an example of Tom's. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this company, Tom's. They make shoes. And this has been a part of their DNA from the beginning. Every time they sell a pair of shoes, they give a pair of shoes to a child in need. And again, this is an example of it's part of their DNA as a company, but it's also, it makes sense for them. It's tied to their business. And it means a lot to the communities that they give to, and it has built this crazy raving fans type of community for consumers and for shoppers that buy Tom's. Here's an example of a local dealership. So Maddox Chevrolet has obviously taken over the kind of global cause from Chevy on breast cancer awareness, but they also have their own very strong causes on a local level. So they believe very strongly in sustainability and, in this case, energy savings. And so they utilize their social channels to talk about that a lot, talk about the difference they're trying to make and what they're doing. And you can see here in this example, it has given them the opportunity to showcase this beautiful imagery of what their dealership looks like. And so this is where we cross into, we're making a difference in the community, and that's first and foremost. And that's what's important, this social cause. But because we really live it, because we really believe in it, it's given us an opportunity as brands and as companies to earn the right to also promote it and use it as marketing. Now, let's take all of this information we've been talking about, all of the targeting, all of the different trends, as well as this idea of personalized messaging and cause-based marketing, and we're going to bubble it up into 5 strategies that I want you to walk out today and be able to put in play. So, number 1, identify your target audience and don't be afraid to be specific. So in this world where we've got all of this data we talked about today, and we have the opportunity to communicate to people differently, it's perfect for us to be able to really identify target audiences. And remember that it doesn't have to be just one target audience. You can speak to your customers that you want to retain in a different way, in a different place than prospects that you want to grab onto. So really think about that. And remember, don't be afraid to get specific about those targets, because with all this technology, you can do that now. Second, it's important to drive a strategy with your partner that utilizes this data and technology, right? So go back to your partners, ask them, what are they using? What do they recommend? And if they don't recommend, why? There's a place in a marketing plan for all of these different pieces, and there's a time and a place when you want to or don't want to use them. You should also ask about the costs. So I mentioned earlier that a lot of these data layers, these targeting capabilities, they add cost to a marketing plan because it adds sophistication. And so it's important to be critical of that cost and to really think about when is it worth it and when is it not. Let me give you a quick example to show you what I mean here. If you start out with a broad-reached campaign, and it's a much lower cost because it's kind of a set it out there, get it in front of as many people, lower cost, not a lot of sophistication or data or targeting. But in that case, we know that we also have a lot of waste because we want to get in front of car shoppers that are ready to buy. That's our bread and butter. So you're probably getting in front of a lot of people that don't want your message. They're not paying attention to your message. So you've got waste. So if you start backing out of that audience, your cost per engaged shopper, if you will, in that case, goes up. Because of that waste, and you kind of create this effective cost per shopper metric. Then if you look on the other side at a more targeted campaign, or perhaps a more contextual campaign, while you may have some added costs there that started out looking like it was higher than this other low-cost option, once you start looking at the effective rate of how you can get in front of the right audience, those costs tend to measure up equally, and in some cases, go the other direction. So it's important to really ask your providers, talk to them about not only what the data solutions are that they're recommending, but what the costs are and how they compare. Next, you want to establish clear goals that you can measure and optimize to. May seem easy, may seem obvious, but you need to know what you're going after so that you can really measure them internally and make sure you know what your advertising is after, which leads us to the 4th piece, which is holding your partners accountable. You need mutually agreed upon goals so that you can hold each other accountable to hitting those goals. In this new world of data and technology and this idea of going after a specific audience, it gives us a perfect opportunity to have some latitude and work with partners, work with publishers, and work with our different ad partners to hold each other accountable to certain results. This is an area where you can really go back and, again, work with partners to make sure you're on a clear path towards what you want to deliver on goals. And then finally, it's all about testing. In this space of audience targeting we talked about today, you've got tons of opportunity to test, and there's not a lot to lose because you can constantly test new things. You never know what you're going to find. You may find a new audience that you didn't think was relevant. You may find a new behavior in that behavioral targeting idea that is a trigger for someone to come in and buy a car this weekend, right? And you didn't know until you did some of those tests and you discovered some of the behaviors that may be interesting to you in your marketing plan. Now, with all of this data and all of this targeting opportunities, it's only going to get more complicated because there continues to be new tools and new ways that we can use them. So what's important is that as this sophistication in our marketplace and in our space continues to progress, we're staying on top of the trends as much as we can. Make sure to bring this information back to the folks that are running marketing and our partners, just so that we can continue to tie things together. This is where it makes a lot of sense to tie all of these different tools we have into a cohesive marketing plan that works together, and working with agencies and with partners that help you do that help you focus across the broad spectrum. And with all of that, you get to this wonderful, ideal future state where we go from advertising that is focused on media position, and that's kind of where we were before. I want to be on this billboard in this space. It's all about the position, to this wonderful place of audience-focused targeting and the opportunity to advertise to a specific audience no matter where they are, but at that optimal time when they're primed and open to our message. Thank you for the time today, and look forward to seeing all of those audience-targeted ads out there.